Because we've lost James again. Until they get that fixed, I'm just not saying it. But I mean, it's a very expensive toy in that regard. So he's saying it's not him. I'm not doing anything here. Okay. Has my internet crashed here or something?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Hey, there he goes. I don't know what's going on, man.
That wasn't me that time.
That wasn't you? I didn't do anything, I swear.
Wasn't me.
It just, like, Skype went nuts, said the call quality was low, and was trying to retrieve the call. So I ended the call and hoped you'd call back.
Well, I guess you were successful.
Okay. Can you turn your video back on?
Yes.
Okay. Man. Okay, Attack of the Killer Skype. Yeah, I think we've kind of hashed this to death. There's not a lot more to say on this, but it's like we're hoping it gets better. I agree with you. I'm honestly thinking if everybody just waits 60 to 90 days, this will straighten itself out, because there's no way this can continue. I think Motorola and Verizon are both going to realize, okay, we over-asked. Let us back off a little, and maybe people will buy. On that note, does anybody know if they've sold, how many they've sold? If they've sold, I'm sure they're selling some.
How many Zooms have sold?
Yeah. They're Lord knows they're advertising them enough.
3 days ago, Motorola's mobility CEO says off to a good start.
And what is a good start in terms of a number? Not one given, right?
Probably not.
Okay. Okay.
It didn't provide specific numbers.
It didn't provide
That's Wall Street Journal.
Okay, I guess we'll move on. Which do we want to go into? Do we want to try and get into the complex issues of distros, or do we want to try and do that next week, or do we want to just move on to wrapping up the whole Banshee canonical thing? I know it's old news at this point, but the implications, I think, are worth going into.
Well, it is an old. There's been some updates in the past week or more, so.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of settled. It's not the ultimatum it was before.
Although there's still a lot of people unhappy with the way they settled it. I think the Banshee developers are even unhappy with the way they settled it.
What's the phrase? A good compromise is when everybody is equally unhappy, although I think Canonical is rather happy with the settlement, so I don't think it was a good compromise. This is a problem in open source in that, we have these ideals about, and Linux, we have these ideals about, well, it's open, it's on, everybody's on. But like anything else, as soon as money gets involved, people get a little weird. It's just, and that really is what I think's at the heart of this issue, unfortunately. I mean, do you think that's honestly what it came down to? Canonical wanted the money, and they didn't care who they were taking it from?
To be honest, I think that at least some part of them, they realized that the Amazon store, one, has a bigger user base, and two, just has, I guess, more and maybe better overall content. So they were pretty well convinced at that point that if they didn't find some way to get their hands into the Amazon pie, they were going to completely lose out entirely. I mean, if your choices are, let's use my Amazon account I've established for years, or an Ubuntu account I've never used. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I've never really had a problem with the fact that you can largely just use your Amazon account over on Linux and Android and yada yada and so forth, because, like you say, it's access to tons of content and so on and so forth. I mean, it's not like it's a problem. It was a problem for Canonical, but So what? Was my honest reaction to that. Or do you think I'm underreacting there? I mean, it seems almost anti-open to be kind of forcing yourself through the door like that. What about you, James?
So we're talking about them getting the percent in the Amazon Music Store and Banshee.
Yeah.
One of the comments I heard is that I mean, it'll probably end up with a 25% making more money than it did before, I think.
Who? Canonical or Banshee or Gnome?
Well, the Gnome Foundation.
Okay.
I mean, I think that it would I don't think that it's out of my mind to say that 4 times as many people would install it when it's included. And I mean, Canonical still, from what I last heard, isn't turning a profit, so I don't know. I don't see it as that bad.
Well, and the reality is, what's even more stupid about this is this showed some true colors of some people, and it brought some issues up. You know, it's honestly the people who wind up looking bad here, in some respects, is Canonical. And if you go back to that original story, this was all squabbling over what, like $3,000. It's not even like it was a large amount of money or anything. I could understand if it was millions of dollars, but to do this kind of squabbling over just basically...
Well, it's sort of future potential.
Okay, but...
Banshee, is Banshee included by default? And actually the Amazon plugin was just created, I think, a month or two ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a few $1,000s a month, that could definitely help out a little. It's not going to be life-changing for them, I'm sure, but once it's incorporated into a very large, very popular distro as the default, it could add up to a whole lot.
Okay, but...
Potential.
Say that again, James.
I didn't say anything. I was about to make a comment, but
Now you don't want to. It's like, I don't know. It's just... the more Ubuntu and Canonical do things like this, the more I begin to... I know this is blasphemy, but I'm looking at them as the Apple of Linux. And that's harsh. That's really... We hope he calls back. I didn't do it, people, I swear. I'm with you, Jordan. I mean, I honestly just have mixed feelings about this. It's...
Well, I mean, from Canonical's point of view, it makes perfect sense to try for it. A lot of people have said, and I kind of see where they're coming from here, when Apple does something like this, they take 30%. When Amazon or the Google Marketplace or anything like that, when they're doing something that they're not actively having to work for, they take 30%.
Well, it's like Apple takes 30, Google takes 10 to 15. It's like well, it depends. It depends on the thing. But the reality is, nobody ever takes...
Nobody takes 3/4.
Yeah, but that's what it is here. It was 75%.
But it was going to be 100.
And now I can't answer his thing. It's... Oh, I swear.
Does your other computer need to reboot?
No, it's not. It's not on this end.
Have you turned it off and on again? If we're still filming, hopefully somebody will catch that.
Okay, first things first. I have to mute this computer so I don't get his fucking things over there. Okay, I'm killing Skype over here. God damn it, boy. Because of course he calls in when this, he waits to call in till exactly when this machine can't answer him. It's like he's doing it on purpose to annoy me. I swear he's doing. We're trying to have a nice conversation here about Canonical taking 75% of things, and it's.
Are we still recording?
Unfortunately. Don't type okay, just call. It's like. Welcome to the wonderful world of Skype, people. Exactly why it is not designed to do this. Stop hanging up!
Yeah, no, stop new command.
Stop hanging up. Okay, yeah.
So we'll be on.
We never went off. It's like, anyways, moving on to the. I think the real thing that made Canonical look really bad here. You're right. It doesn't hurt to ask, but making a bullying point out of it, forcing a settlement, and the fact that it's 75%, or it's this. I don't see how Canonical can come out of this smelling good. I don't. It's. What did those settlement percentage wind up being? Because I actually forget. I don't have it in front of me here.
It was 75-25 on both, actually.
So Canonical's getting 75%.
And before, on the Ubuntu One store, they were getting 100%. So they are giving something back that they weren't giving before. It's just a pittance compared to what they might make through Banshee, since it's going to be the new default. And, well, I guess Banshee, since it's going to have both plugins, yeah, anyway.
So Canonical's getting 75%, or they agreed to give away 75%?
No, they're getting 75% from both stores, and they're giving away 25% from both stores to the GNOME Foundation.
See, those numbers should be reversed.
That would make sense.
Those numbers should be reversed. God damn
But
it,
at least
James.
for the Amazon store. I mean, the Ubuntu One store, they came up with that. If they wanted to give the GNOME Foundation, that's cool, but that's their baby. But the Banshee developers came up with this. It was their idea to give it to the GNOME Foundation. It was a nice gesture, a way to support a large portion of the community, and I'm still mixed about it, but I do think it's kind of a kick in the nuts to everybody involved.
Well, it looks like he was able to recover the call this time. I don't know what's going on there. What's up with your internet right now, man?
I don't know. We're switching out to a new router, and my dad's messing with the settings.
Well, while he's messing with the settings, he keeps kicking you offline. That's like, which is, or the latency's getting ridiculous. I don't know. Anyways, no, yeah. What it comes down to,
Well, like I said, happens again. I think that just.
What it honestly comes down to is who has the right to say And it's like, I'm having trouble keeping a stream of consciousness by trying to keep us on. Damn it, he's going up again. No, you haven't. That's like, but what it comes down to is who has the say so. Honestly, where the money should be going, because it is Banshee's application, it is Banshee's stuff. It is Banshee's. I think it should be Banshee's call. I don't think Canonical really gets a vote here.
There were a couple of people that commented on one of my videos, and they actually had a good suggestion. Let the user decide where it goes. I mean, there are going to be a lot of people that put it 100% to GNOME. There are going to be a lot of people that give it 100% to Ubuntu, to Canonical, excuse me, because Ubuntu actually gets nothing out of it.
Well, okay, the end. I like that suggestion. The end user should be able to decide where the percentage that's donatable, because there was a percentage that had to go to like upkeep costs. But
and you could do like 30-70 on the Amazon one, and then 70-30 on the Ubuntu one to start.
Yeah, I mean, you can set the defaults however you want.
Exactly. And then let the user...
Well, and I'm sure the official Banshee would come one way, and then the pack that winds up in a repo would be retweaked for how the distro wants it. You know, that's part of open source. But it's at the end. I think that's the best solution I've heard out of this. Rather than mandating one or the other, just have that little thing come up in the settings. Where do you want to send your donations?
Well, I mean, it worked pretty well for the, what's it called? The Humble Indie Bundle. Who do you want to distribute these between?
Yeah, but Amazon.
Well, but I mean, it's... I guess. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be the last thing like this we see. As more and more commercial stuff works over this, everybody's going to have their... And really, what's at the heart of this is free software versus open source versus what we should be supporting. Yeah, and there's only two ways to be fair there. Way A, whoever makes the software gets to choose. Way B, the end user chooses. Anything other than those two ways, it has problems written all over it. And unfortunately, in both scenarios...
I don't...
Say that again, you broke up. Hello?
I don't completely agree that the distro shouldn't have a choice in this.
Well, no, it's like, no matter how I try and... No matter how I try and rationalize this, I'm honestly trying to figure out why Canonical thought they were entitled to dictate a choice. Why they thought they had a vote in that. I'm having a hard time. That's the part I have a hard time rationalizing. Ignoring the 75%, ignoring the implications, ignoring everything else, I have a hard time wrapping my head around why Ubuntu or Canonical thought they could give that ultimatum. I know why they wanted to, for the same reason Jordan was saying, potential future revenues. They want their stake on it. Okay, ask, don't dictate. What's the term? You catch more flies with honey? It's the fact that they were trying to dictate this. I have a feeling this is going to leave a sour taste in some people's mouths for a while about Canonical. It was one of those, well, I'm not sure we should trust Canonical. I've kind of always felt that way, but that's me. That's... do you think this has anything whatsoever to do with wanting to push Unity over GNOME, or do you think this is a byproduct of that, or do you think it's just purely coincidental?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with that.
Okay. Anything else?
There's a part of me that wants to think it's coincidental, but at the same time, the diametric shift away from everything that is GNOME and where GNOME is going.
And then the timing. It's
exactly.
like I want to agree with James. I really want to. I want
it to be.
I want it to be purely coincidental. I want Canonical not to be this nefarious entity that I've always kind of been afraid it is. I've always kind of been afraid that Canonical is the Apple kind of hiding in the open source thing. But I really hope I'm wrong. I really, really, really hope I'm wrong. It's like, so here's two people, hoping we're wrong, and hoping the third is right. Anything else you want to say on that, or do we want to move on to the idea of Unity possibly splintering things? I'm honestly wondering if Unity isn't going to wind up leading to some type. Excuse me, not Unity. I'm sorry, I'm saying the wrong thing. Getting back into GNOME. Some of the things going on with GNOME 3, I'm wondering if GNOME isn't going to have a forking going forward. Or do you think I'm not a GNOME person. Both of you are. I'm hearing things out of the GNOME ballpark, like, no, they're kind of taking things in a weird direction. Is this like for GNOME, is GNOME undergoing a transition like KDE did when it was going from KDE 3 to KDE 4? Or is it really some of the things that are changing between GNOME 2 and GNOME 3 things to be concerned about? You know what I'm getting on there? I'm seeing quizzical works from Jordan, and I'm seeing James moving around. It's like, so I'm guessing neither one of you. But I'm guessing neither one of you feel that way.
I hadn't heard anything about anything forking, but
no, I haven't heard anything about anything forking yet. I'm just wondering if the dramatic changes are, if you think they're going to ultimately head in a fork, or do you think people are just kind of, I don't like change.
There's a lot of that, especially this week. Some of the latest updates to GNOME 3 are, by the way, you don't have a maximize and a minimize button anymore. Have fun with that.
Yeah, it's like I'm just hearing more and more things out of GNOME. It's like, okay, like the buttons are changing, what you can change, how customizable the UI. I'm hearing all these things. I'm like, is GNOME pissing off GNOME? And usually when something open source pisses off its like core user base, the inevitability is a fork. It's like, we'll show you, we're going to go this way. It's like, I don't think it's come to that yet, but
in a sense, Unity is a fork.
I hadn't thought about that, but you are right. Do you think that's the whole reason for Unity, maybe? Because Unity does have... Unity is free of some of these limitations that people are really complaining about in GNOME 3.
From what I've heard a couple of people mention this, I think a large portion of the reason why Unity is coming about at all is GNOME 3 and GTK 3 are moving away from the way that Canonical has done things. They've created a lot of applets and a lot of things just invested in the GNOME 2 and GTK 2 architectures. And to completely drop that and say, we're moving to something else and we're going to deprecate a bunch of stuff and you may not have anything work anymore, and to have to redo all of this work, they're saying, well, if we're going to have to redo it, why don't we just redo the whole thing, put a whole new shell over it, and make it our own?
Okay.
That could be wrong.
I agree with Jordan. I think that the reason that Ubuntu did make Unity was, sort of the fork, but I think that the reason is to have something that they own that they could really control, and not in a bad way.
No, it's like I'm not thinking anything nefarious is going on with Unity, like I am with some other stuff. But it's one of those. It's one of the things I've always heard out of GNOME. Oh, please don't tell me we've lost him again. Not again. Yes, again. Damn it. The number one thing I hear out of GNOME people when they complain about KDE, and I don't want to turn this into a GNOME versus KDE thing, because I think they both have their place and it's the end user's preference and choice. But the thing I always hear out of them is, well, GNOME has less forking, GNOME is more unified, GNOME is more solid, and I think one of the things that's come out of this recently is to show that it's just as diverse a user base, it's just as ununified, and there's just as many opinions in the GNOME camp about what the right answer is as there are in the KDE one. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not bashing on GNOME for that. It's just one of those things. I think it'd be favorable to the GNOME community to acknowledge that fact a little more. Or do you think I'm, really going out of left field here? Ironically, I'm talking with one, hopefully two people who acknowledge that fact. But as a general rule of thumb, there's almost this quote-unquote smugness, I want to say, to GNOME people. Of course, I've met some KDE people who have the same smugness in a different wrapper, so I don't know if that's entirely inherent to GNOME. We get all smug about it. We have widgets and we lack them.
I think everybody has a little bit of smugness. Everybody likes their own thing, and when someone else approaches you with change, people in general just don't like change.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to call that.
I've tried it. I've dived into other desktop environments. I've dived into KDE, and I think I've done XFCE and LXDE and Fluxbox and OpenBox, and I know those are not Ds. Anyway, I've tried these other things, and they're just not comfortable to me. So there's a part of me that looks on them and says, those are bad, but I know that's not the case. It's just different. It's something I'm not accustomed to.
The magical words are, it's not the right choice for me. Those are the magical words right there. And acknowledging that people are diverse and they're the honest choice is, the correct answer is, there is no right answer. There's a right answer for me.
Exactly. That's a question I get almost every day is, what's the best distro for blah? And a lot of times I'll say, for a lot of people, Ubuntu is a great choice. It really depends on what you want to do, what software you need, what hardware you have, as to what is best for you.
Well, and that was the real reason for the thing that we're obviously not going into this week because of technical problems and time and yada yada. But I do want to do this, and I guess we'll do it next week, this, kind of a checklist of what makes a good distro. Because to really answer that question, you need to go into, okay, what type of computing are you doing? What type of user are you? And what is your comfort level? What are you looking for? And the way those three factors dynamically interact depends, A, what class of distro you should be in, where you should, what you're looking for. The reality is the correct answer, that's different for everybody, but if you have the right checklist and right set of things, it takes you about 5 minutes at most to figure it out. So I do want to go into that, but I guess we're going to do that next week, especially with all this technical crap. Is there anything else we wanted to go into this week, though? We went into Canonical, we went into Unity, we went into GNOME forking. So I guess we've kind of covered everything, unless there's some other really weird story that I've missed because I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off all week. I don't think anything really crazy's happened. One thing I do want to say to people, hopefully, other than Skype continually having problems with James's internet connection tonight, the audio's been fine. The audio has been getting progressively worse here as of late. I don't know why. When this stuff is glitching, I'm getting no feedback that it's glitching. When those of you who's been complaining about that recently, where there's just 10, 20-second pieces where it starts going, everything here says it's fine. It's screwing up in the original transcode. I can fix audio, I can turn up audio levels, but if it just doesn't record it at all, there isn't a dang thing I can do. I can't set my Wayback Machine and raise my TARDIS and go, okay, bring it back. I don't have Gallifreyan technology here. I wish I did, but there's nothing I can do. I'm going to try and trace down where the problem is. Hopefully I can figure out, at least get it back like it was. I'm getting increasingly annoyed with this setup, but I'm not sure what to replace it with. There's a number of things I can replace it with. Unfortunately, each and every one of them requiring me to committing to an entirely different set of equipment and or way of doing things. So I have to make the choice and know, okay, this is how I'm going to be doing it for at least the next 2 years because of the investment and other stuff. And I haven't made that decision yet. If any of y'all have any suggestions on that, feel free to make them. I'll take your 2 cents. I'm not necessarily promising to obey them, but any suggestions are welcome. Yeah. Anything to add on that, Jordan, or just kind of let it kill there?
No.
Yeah.
The only thing that's been really bugging me lately is, and this is completely off left field. Have you ever heard of NVIDIA's Optimus technology?
I haven't played with it, but yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I'm looking for a new laptop. I'm doing a presentation in a couple of weeks, and it would be nice to have a laptop that could actually edit HD video before I give a presentation on editing HD video. So yeah, I've been looking at laptops, and the majority of them I'm finding that are NVIDIA-based are NVIDIA with Optimus, and guess what? Don't work in Linux.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
and they
proprietary
have no
drivers.
supporting Linux with it.
Yeah, I occasionally
I shake my fist at NVIDIA and the manufacturers that are using this cheap technology.
Yeah, well, and what's really funny is as long as they're using the dedicated NVIDIA cards, and ironically, most of the dedicated, okay, I have to make sure I say this right, AMD cards, because everybody's...
I do it every single time.
Well, what screws me up is if I go to an electronics store today, I can still buy ATI cards, and all the laptops on the shelf, at least half of them, say ATI Vision. So it's like, but AMD cards. What's really funny is, AMD, quote unquote, ATI, who historically is on, is actually having that problem less as of late, which is, I know what you're talking about there. It's one of those things. It's like, NVIDIA, who's historically always worked well, is now on the cheaper end, the thorn in your side. And it's like, there's something wrong with that universe. There really is. So, well, and I think they're making a big mistake there because the reality is a lot of people just won't buy that. They'll either buy the Intel or they'll upgrade to something else. They won't buy that, and it's... I see the manufacturers that are going with that particular cheap, because the reality is the Intel one actually